What is going on, everyone? 2021 is a year of hope. This could end up being one of the best years for movies in a really long time because of all the delays from 2020. A lot of the films that were supposed to come out last year ended up getting pushed back to 2021 or later. So therefore, this year is stacked with blockbuster movies. However, there are still a lot of people who are skeptical about films that were delayed to 2021 and whether or not these films will actually end up coming out this year. So today, I'm going to break down 10 different films that were delayed from 2020 to 2021 and talk about if any of them will actually end up coming out in 2021. Let me remind you guys again quickly that I'm only touching on films that were supposed to come out in 2020 but got pushed back to 2021. These are films that we have trailers for the most part, but have not seen the films yet in theaters or on streaming. So with that, let's get started with the first film on my list. Morbius. The movie was supposed to come out last summer, but now it's set for March 19th, 2021. Morbius is part of the Sony Spider-Verse / MCU character-verse thing. I have no idea what they're calling it now, but yeah, it's in the same universe as Venom, so that's all you have to know. Looking back, Venom did not do great with critics, but with audiences, it was a box office hit, and I'm sure Morbius has similar expectations. The only thing is, Morbius is not as well known as a character in comparison to Venom. Venom, of course, made his live-action debut in Spider-Man 3, so people know who Venom is, and people were really excited to see that movie back in 2018. But Morbius, I don't think people are as excited about this movie in comparison to Venom just because this character is not as well known as Venom. So do I think Morbius can make a lot of money at the box office? Of course I do. This is a superhero film. It's in the same universe as Venom, which also made a lot of money. So yes, this movie can absolutely succeed at the box office just like Venom did 2.5 years ago. But do I think this movie will release on March 19th? No, I don't think this movie is going to release this spring. I still feel like studios are worried about the box office numbers. Look at Tenet. That movie did not do nearly as well as it could have had it not been for the pandemic. So Morbius will probably come out eventually in 2021 because Marvel and Sony really want to push this movie out into theaters. But do I think it'll come out on March 19th? No. So if I had to give an estimation, I think this movie will come out in the fall of 2021, but not anytime soon. So if I had to make an estimate, I think Morbius will come out in the fall of 2021, maybe on streaming / in theaters, just because they really want to get the ball rolling with the Spider-Man Sony-verse. Next up is No Time to Die, the newest James Bond film. This movie is set to come out on April 2nd, 2021. What's weird about No Time to Die is that Columbia Pictures will not be distributing the film. Instead, it's going to be Universal, and this is the first time for any Daniel Craig film that Columbia Pictures will not be distributing the film worldwide. So that in turn means that we could see the film eventually on Peacock, maybe? Because Comcast owns NBC Universal, whose streaming platform is Peacock, but do I really think this is going to happen? Absolutely not. They do not intend on releasing No Time to Die on streaming. They want this movie in theaters. But there is another really big problem with this film. I don't see it coming out this spring either, just like Morbius. It's a little bit too early for them to feel comfortable releasing it in theaters to the point where they feel like they can make enough profit back. So you look at summer as well as fall. But the problem with fall is that Mission Impossible 7 is coming out, which is, in all honesty, James Bond's biggest competitor. So it would be really weird to see a Bond movie coming out alongside Mission Impossible 7. And when it comes to the summer, well, that just feels weird to release a James Bond movie in the middle of the summer. Last time they did that, the movie did not do well at the box office. So there really isn't a great situation here with No Time to Die. So for that reason, I think this movie is going to be delayed to 2022 because they still want to make a huge profit. And there really isn't a great scenario in 2021 as of right now for this movie to do so. So for a 2021 release, I'm going to say no. A Quiet Place Part 2 is up next. This film is set to come out on April 23rd, 2021. The first A Quiet Place did pretty well with audiences. The movie made just under $400 million worldwide, which is not bad for a movie with a small scale like A Quiet Place. The movie was not expected to be this big box office spectacle, but it blew everyone away. The movie actually ended up being really good. And for A Quiet Place Part 2, I think for a lot of people, the expectations are even higher. This movie could make more money at the box office than the first film just because of how good the first movie was. However, I don't think this movie will be released again in the spring of 2021. It's just too soon. Studios do not feel comfortable releasing movies right now because they don't think they're going to make any money. So why would A Quiet Place 2 be any different than the other films that I just talked about? You know what's strange too? A Quiet Place Part 2 is owned by Paramount, who is owned by Viacom/CBS, and their streaming platform is CBS All Access, of course. But the thing about CBS All Access is I feel like they only focus on their CBS shows and other shows that are owned by Viacom, whereas other streaming platforms make it known that they focus on both the movies and the TV shows. So it would feel very out of place if this movie were released on CBS All Access if they don't care at all about the movies in comparison to the TV shows. So where do I see A Quiet Place Part 2 going in 2021? Well, as I said, it's way too early for it to be released in theaters. So what I think will happen is that this movie will be released on streaming because what do they have to lose? The first movie made more money than they expected initially. So if the second movie ends up being really good, why not just have it come out on streaming? So then if the second movie is great, when the third film eventually comes out later on in a couple of years, more and more people will go see the third film, so that movie can blow away expectations at the box office just like the first film, if not do better than the first film. So the second movie doesn't really have anything to lose. So if I were them, I would just release this movie on streaming, maybe sell it to, I don't know, Hulu or Amazon Prime. What do you have to lose, really? I'm going to give A Quiet Place Part 2 a yes for streaming in 2021. This film is probably one of the top 3 most anticipated films of 2021 for many. Black Widow is expected to come out on May 7th, 2021. Disney has made it clear that they intend to release Black Widow in theaters. If that happens, then the movie theater industry could be revitalized. But if it does not happen, then the movie theater industry could die forever. And people like myself do not want the movie industry to die. It's a place that I love experiencing movies in, and studios like Disney want to keep the movie theater industry alive too because they know they can make more profit at movie theaters. So you have a tad bit of a dilemma because you're still dealing with a pandemic, but also Black Widow is a really important movie because it's one of the few movies this year that could keep the movie theater industry alive. So what do you do? I want to be as straightforward with you guys when it comes to my answer with Black Widow being released in theaters. I do think this movie will come out in 2021. However, I don't think it's just going to be released in theaters. I think they're also going to release it in Disney Plus. It's going to be a side-by-side thing. It's going to be half in theaters and half on Disney Plus, so people can see it on both screens, and that's completely fine. But do I think the movie theater industry will survive after 2021? I don't know. I think this movie is really important. I think it needs to be released solely in theaters to keep the movie theater industry going forever and ever. And if it's not, we might not see movie theaters after this year. It might be a really long time until we see them again. So because of Black Widow's importance to the movie industry, I'm going to say it does come out in 2021, but both in theaters and on streaming. A movie that I am very much so anticipating but think it could be absolutely terrible is Godzilla vs. Kong. It's set to come out on May 21st, 2021. Apparently at that time they plan on releasing this movie on HBO Max as well as in theaters. But the thing with Godzilla vs. Kong is that I have not seen any marketing from this movie. I have not seen any trailers, any teaser trailers, anything. I have no idea what this movie is going to look like yet. And that makes me wonder, is this film complete? Are they ready to release it? Do they still have a lot of things that need to be fixed in Godzilla vs. Kong? What's the deal? Why have we not seen any footage from this movie? It doesn't make any sense. If the movie is ready to come out on May 21st, then so be it. I guess it's ready to come out this year. But if they don't show any marketing, any trailers, anything from this movie, then I have no reason to believe it's coming out in May. Maybe it comes out in November, maybe it comes out in 2022. But if they say it's coming out on HBO Max on May 21st, 2021, then I have to believe them. This movie could suck really badly anyway, but if they say it's coming out on May 21st, 2021, then I have to believe them, so I'm going to give this movie a yes for 2021 release. One franchise that needs to end once and for all is the Fast and Furious franchise. It probably never will, but whatever. Fast and Furious 9, or otherwise known as F9, is coming out on May 28th, 2021. It's another movie where the studio who owns it is adamant on releasing it in theaters, but what makes me skeptical about Fast and Furious 9 coming out in 2021 is that for NBC, this is a film that has to make a lot of money in order to return a ton of profit, because NBC / Universal / Comcast, well, this company, it can't afford to have a box office bomb with one of its biggest franchises, if not its biggest franchise. Whereas a film studio like Disney, who owns Marvel and Star Wars and 20th Century Fox, they can afford to have at least a couple of box office bombs a year, because they have so many other films / TV shows coming out, whereas NBC Universal doesn't really have anything else as profitable as the Fast and Furious franchise. I know I keep repeating myself, but again, May 28th might be way too soon for a movie to be released in theaters if the studio thinks that movie's going to make a lot of money, or at least hopes to make a lot of money. If you don't care about the movie making that much money, then so be it. I mean, I think Comcast already owns way too much, and it's kind of annoying how profitable that company has been. I mean, I'm from the East Coast. I have had Comcast my entire life. I'm pretty much sick and tired of them at this point, but I mean, hey, if they want to make a lot of money and they really, really want Fast and Furious 9 to do well at the box office, they might have to wait until 2022. So for NBC Universal, if they want to keep their movie industry alive and thriving, you probably have to release this movie in theaters just so it makes a lot of money. And if you don't release it in theaters this year, it's not that big of a deal. I'm sure they can release it in 2022, and they want to stay safe. They don't want to have a huge loss from F9 because they know for a fact that this is their most profitable movie franchise that they own. Because of that, I don't think F9 is coming out in 2021. People really hated the movie that came out for this franchise in 2016, but Ghostbusters Afterlife could be here to save the day for the Ghostbusters franchise. And the film is set to come out on June 11th, 2021. That is not an understatement when I say that people were furious over the making of the 2016 Ghostbusters remake. That movie, for so many people, was one of the most garbage remakes known to mankind. In turn, Ghostbusters Afterlife is supposed to be the movie that saves this franchise. In 2016, you had a really bad movie for many people, so to a certain degree, Ghostbusters Afterlife does have some pressure on its shoulders because you don't want this franchise to be dead. You want to revitalize it, you want to save it, so if this movie is good, you can do so, but also you don't have that much pressure because how much worse could this movie be in comparison to the 2016 movie? I also don't think this movie is as important as other films that are coming out for big franchises in 2021. So if I were Sony, who owns Ghostbusters, in case you guys did not know that, well then I would release this movie on streaming, maybe sell it to a streaming service, and just release it on streaming to see how the movie does. If it is critically acclaimed and if audiences love it, well then good, you get the green light for a sequel. Looking back, I just can't imagine this movie being as bad as the last film in this franchise, so I don't really think the movie has that much pressure on it. I don't think the movie should be released in theaters because they're probably not going to make that much money, so if I were them, I would just sell it to a streaming service and have it on streaming for the summer. So I will say Ghostbusters Afterlife does come out in 2021. Speaking of movies I don't really like, well, I don't like, and this might be very controversial, but I don't like Top Gun. That movie is bad. It's just bad. But a lot of people are really excited for Top Gun Maverick, which is set to come out on July 2nd, 2021 from Paramount. I was shocked when I saw Maverick's budget. I did not expect the budget for this movie to be nearly as high as it is, but apparently this movie is really expensive. So they probably expect to make a ton of money at the box office if they want to have any kind of profit, because a budget like this needs a huge profit at the box office in order to make a lot of money back. Surprisingly, too, the first Top Gun made a lot of money at the box office in the 80s. So if you're Viacom, you have many reasons to believe that this movie needs to make a lot of money at the box office. That high of a budget, well, then you're going to have a lot of big box office numbers in order to return a huge profit. And also, if the first movie made a lot of money back in the 1980s, well, you can only expect just how much more money they're going to make in present day. But having that high of a budget makes me very skeptical about this movie's release date. I don't think they're going to release this on a streaming platform. That would be a mistake. A lot of movies have done that this past year, and it didn't really work out in their favor. They did not make nearly as much money as they would have had there been no COVID-19 pandemic. So in my opinion, Top Gun Maverick is not going to be released in 2021. I see it coming out in 2022 sometime. I really did enjoy Murder on the Orient Express in 2017, so that's why I was excited to watch Death on the Nile this past year. And this film is set to come out on September 17th, 2021. Going into 2020, Death on the Nile was one of my most anticipated films of the year, but as the film continued to move onward, I constantly kept forgetting about the film's release. It was supposed to come out last September. There was a trailer released last summer, and when the trailer was released, I didn't even hear about it until like 5 days later. So people didn't really care that much about Death on the Nile, apparently, even though it has a huge cast. You see, that's the problem, though, with Death on the Nile. While I enjoyed the first movie and I'm looking forward to this film, along with many other people who also enjoyed the first film, we keep forgetting about it because they don't do a good job in pushing this film. I forgot about it in 2020, and I am forgetting about it currently in 2021. And because this movie keeps getting pushed under the rug by so many people, there is no reason for me to believe that Death on the Nile will be a highly profitable film if it is released in 2021. Or at least if the movie is released in theaters. If it's released on streaming in 2021, that could do better things for the film. But if it's released in theaters and people still aren't going to the theaters in September, well, then I highly doubt anybody will remember this film. But if it's released on like Netflix, then this movie definitely will do better, I think, for people in comparison to if it's released in theaters. So yes, I do see Death on the Nile being released in 2021, but only on streaming. The final film I have to talk about today is one of the most anticipated movies for many this year. It is Dune. The film is set to come out on October 1st, 2021. Originally, it was going to be released simultaneously on HBO Max and in theaters, but supposedly now it's only coming out in theaters on October 1st. The way I look at Dune, it's this year's Tenet, where Tenet last year was the movie that came out to save movie theaters. This year, Dune has the same stakes. It has the same scale as Tenet. It's supposed to be this huge, massive movie, one of the best movies of the entire year, a movie that everyone has been talking about for the last 3 or more years. And it's one of those films that you must see on the big screen just because of its visuals alone. Listen, I'm no fortune teller. I have no idea when it'll be okay for people to return to theaters safely, or at least when people will feel they can return to theaters safely. I personally feel okay going back to theaters, but I'm not your ordinary movie person. I love movies. I'm a movie fanatic. I will go see a movie any day of the week at any time. I don't care if COVID has been an ongoing thing. I will go see the movie in theaters. It doesn't really matter that much to me, especially because nobody else is going to the theater, so I practically had the theater to myself. For a film like Dune, though, they want to make a lot of money. Denis Villeneuve is one of the best directors working in Hollywood. This film has a lot going for it, but as I said, I'm not a fortune teller. I have no idea what this pandemic will be looking like in the fall. I don't know if people will want to return to the movie theater. Like I said, I don't really care about going to the theater during the pandemic because I love movies. I want to see the movie in the theater no matter what. But other people are a different story. So I can't control what these people do. If audiences don't go to the theater anytime soon, then Dune might not come out this year. If we have a few movies that are blockbusters that are released in theaters and don't do well again, just like Tenet, then I doubt this movie will come out in October because people still won't feel safe going to the theaters. So as much as I want to see Dune in 2021, the way things have been going, and considering nothing has really changed since March, I don't see things changing in October right away. Yes, things might be a little more normal than they are now, but unfortunately, you know what? People just don't want to see movies in theaters at the moment, and it probably will take at least another year or more. And that's the reality of the situation. So for Dune, I'm going to say this movie is not released in 2021. I'll say 2022. So there you guys have it. Those are my thoughts on 10 films that were supposed to come out in 2020, then were delayed to 2021, and now could be delayed once more if things don't change for the movie industry this year. Of course, though, guys, I want to hear your thoughts on these films. Do you think any of these blockbusters will be released in 2021? I want to hear all of your thoughts down below in the comment section on this entire situation. And as always, guys, if you are new to my channel, click the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Thank you all so much for watching this video, and I hope you all have a fantastic day.